Yep. Mm-hmm. Yay.
Tour junkies.
What's going on, golf addicts? It is the Memorial Jack's Place. It's Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day. So thank you to all those who gave their lives for our country. And thank you to all those who are actively serving our country. The Tour Junkies appreciate you and salute you. It's been a great weekend, Pat. It is always a weird weekend as we record this on a day where we're juggling families and, I've been at the pool a lot, working on my tan. I know you've been on the boat. The wives are demanding a lot of quality time on a day like today for the holidays. But, we make it happen. We try to stay consistent, get the pod out on time and all that fun stuff. How you doing, buddy? How's your Memorial weekend been? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Not bad. Last week's podcast, you oh, somebody can't hear us on the live YouTube version. They can't hear Pat. I don't know. Who knows? We're trying to figure this out. Last week, Pat, on the for the Chunk and Run segment, I made you rap lyrics, and you rapped a Master P song. And Master P coined the famous song "Make 'Em Say na 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 na." We should have known. I mean, now I was on Kevin Na. I talked him up on the podcast.
That should have been a sign right there.
Had some listeners making some money on some Kevin Na. I had a pretty good DraftKings week myself with Kevin Na, and it's still, you weren't paying attention. That's a shame for you. That's no good. But it was a fun week.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Pat, I'm trying to understand why our people on YouTube can't hear you right now.
I don't know. You're the one that created this whole YouTube thing that we're doing. So, I'm just focused on the pod. I don't really care about all the YouTube people. I love you.
Well, the YouTube people, though, are very important, Let's see. Oh, they can hear it. They can hear you now. Fantastic.
Okay, see? There you go.
Fantastic.
I changed the little setting. That was probably my fault, but we'll see what happens.
Probably was. Yep, so Kevin Na wins. It was a good week for me. I did have a nice little DK week. Had my third top 5 this year in the Pat Mayo Experience Listener League, which is very nice for me.
Really good.
It's good. I also won. I did good, man. We had some picks. We had some listeners tweet us out that they won some money. It was all in all a pretty fun week, fun sweat for yours truly. It was good stuff. Our boy T White says on YouTube that I can hear Pat now, but honestly, I liked him better muted.
I don't like
funny.
this thing.
I love it. But we also, I want to talk about something, and I have to talk very carefully about it. We sent a late email on Wednesday night last week. Okay, late email last Wednesday night regarding Colonial, the Charles Schwab Challenge, about a particular golfer. Basically, we caught wind from an extremely reliable source late on Wednesday, a source that is on the PGA Tour quite often, sometimes weekly, that we trust, that has sent us information before, that is not trying to sabotage the Tour Junkies or anything like that. Got a late email, a late text from this person that a particular golfer was injured during their pro-am to the point of going to the hospital. And so it was up in the air. This golfer had a very early tee time on Thursday morning, so we sent out a late email to just say, hey, just for what it's worth, you might want to avoid this player because he was injured and may withdraw, and if he doesn't withdraw, may be less than 100%. It wasn't like he was some amazing course fit anyway, so it probably wasn't going to impact you a whole lot. But had he withdrawn or been less than 100%, we figured the upside to sending that email was pretty good for everybody to avoid this player. But that the possible downside was, well, he's fine and he plays well, and people are pissed at us. Well, the latter kind of happened. He played really well for the first couple days, and we were getting a ton of chirps from all of you who got that email. But he ended up finishing around 40th, this golfer. And so I don't think you didn't lose anything by avoiding him. And so there it is. But we got a lot of chirping. We're just trying to help you guys out. We would never try to sabotage anyone. I don't know why anybody would think we would ever send an email that was false just to throw you people off. That's not what we're about. We got a couple of
that's
that was really dumb.
That's really ridiculous to even have that. Like, I don't know if you've listened to us long enough. I mean, look, we're just out there trying to gain as much of an edge as anybody. So to say that we would throw everybody off and then maybe throw this guy in our lineups, that just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. That really upset me more than anything. I mean, I was like, look, I mean, whatever the player did was fine, but I just, the fact that we have a few out there that would not trust us that much to think that we just were doing something that is. Yeah. But you know what? I think sometimes that's the mentality of some. There's folks out there that just are,
everybody's out to get me.
Yeah.
The thing is, too, like, it's another example of people that chirp too early. Like, the guy did really good Thursday and Friday. We were getting hammered on Twitter, DMs, emails. Hey, thanks for that late night Wednesday email, and you guys really nailed that one. Blah, blah, blah. And then on the weekend, he crapped the bed. Like,
he did, yeah. But still, the email came from the best intentions possible. Like, if that had turned out, and maybe there was a withdrawal, or
you guys would have been one to, like, possibly give us sexual favors.
And he wasn't like going to be that high owned anyway. I mean, it really wasn't a great course. No, it
wasn't.
I didn't think.
It wasn't a thing. But if we had a little bit of information, you had enough of an edge to avoid a player that was going to withdraw. By the way, there were a lot of withdrawals. It's kind of crazy that we didn't get it right. As many people as withdrew that week, we should have nailed at least one person. Because last week was...
You had Usti, of course. Freaking Usti.
And how fitting was it, too, that Kevin Na won? Like, Kevin Na is a repetitive withdrawer, and he won on the week that everybody just disappears, except for the guy we said might withdraw. But it is what it is. Just wanted to let you guys know. If you get an email like that from us, it is from the purest of intentions. We're trying to help you out. Sometimes we get late information. We have a few people on the grounds weekly that are looking out for us, looking out for our listeners, trying to make sure we have the best information. So we got information on an injured player. We sent it to you. It is what it is. So our bad on that one. But again, he finished 40th, so I don't want to hear it. But there's a lot of carnage, man. You had a lot of missed cuts, a lot of big names missing the cut. Of course, Spieth's putting. Spieth's putting was a thing. The guy, what he made, like 450 foot in putts the first 3 days. This is exactly what we were talking about on the podcast. We'll talk about Jordan here in just a little bit. But then come Sunday, of course, ball striking was what it has been. Putter went ice cold, and he slid down the leaderboard. And you paid 10-9 for him. I'm still not buying. I'm still not buying the need to pay up for Jordan Spieth. But we'll talk about him here in just a little bit. Pat, anything else that you feel like you need to add for next week, or should we move on?
When you say we'll talk about it, are you talking about for this tournament, or are you talking about for just in general? Like,
is he in the field this week? I didn't even look.
Yes, he is in the field.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
What do you mean you didn't even look?
You just made me second guess myself when you said, are you talking about for this tournament?
Like, what, you didn't look? Yeah, he's in the field this week. But, I mean, I think he's worth talking about because I think he is such a polarizing figure on tour right now. It's amazing to me, especially in the tout world, the folks that just want him to do so bad. They want him to do bad. And I don't get it. He's not bad for the game. when he plays well and does stuff. And he's like, he literally is the example of the fact that golf is about so many. You talk about this all the time, David. You talk about this all the time, how unpredictable it is to pick golfers. You know why? Because it doesn't matter what happens from tee to green. It's getting it in the hole in the fewest amount of. So that's what happens with golf, So everybody wants to talk about stats, this, stats, that, and I like stats. I mean, I work in stats way more than I used to when we started this podcast.
Oh man, yeah, you were terrible.
But everybody wants to hate on Jordan Spieth, and I don't get it. I don't get why you would want him to fail. Why do you want him to fail? I don't understand it, and I don't understand like everybody. So you're going to be on the right end of the call with Jordan Spieth right now if you say to fade him, because you're pretty much saying, well, his stats don't fit and whatever else. But you know what? The ownership is there where he's not like getting, like you even said last week, you thought he was going to be incredibly high owned. He wasn't. And so you're getting an advantage, and the guy's putting lights out right now. Everybody wanted to go back to putting. That was last year's thing, was that his putting's terrible, his putting splits or whatever the hell that means are bad for the last 2 or 3 years. And then he's just putting lights out right now. And he just had 2 top 10s in a row. So, I don't get it. I guess what I want to know is, why do you want him to fail? Why do you want Jordan Spieth to fail? Is it because you want to be right because of the stats that don't back it up? So he's not good at ball striking right now. His strokes gained approach isn't good. What strokes gained off the tee sucks. That's what we're going to do. Like, I just want to know.
Are you asking me why I want him to fail? I'm not saying I want him to fail.
I want your reason, and I want anybody out there who wants him to fail. Like, why? Why?
Well, what is it? He definitely is the lightning rod on Twitter, in golf DFS Twitter, which is a very un poquito segment there. I don't want Jordan Spieth to fail, Pat. I've never said that I wanted Jordan Spieth to fail. I have been vehemently against you playing him in tournaments on DraftKings or betting him. I don't think it's time to bet Jordan Spieth right now. I don't think it's time to play him in DFS right now, as long as he continues to be a top 3, top 5 highest priced guy, just because the value isn't there. But I get what you're saying. I know you had a good little tweet on Saturday night, I think, that I loved. It was actually a good tweet, and it got a lot of commentary, and everybody knew that it was Pat, which is also funny. And what was the beverage going down that night? What was it? What was the tweet juice that night? Yeah.
That night probably a little vino.
Yeah.
I think
what's the podcast juice tonight?
A little vodka with
no free ads.
Lemonade.
Oh, that stuff's good. That stuff's good. Yeah. No free ads though.
Sorry.
Yeah, I get it, man. You still got to get the ball in the hole. We've talked about this a lot here lately. Like, yeah, we talk about stats on the show. We talk about key stats. We rattle them off. Like, honestly, I feel more pressure. We didn't plan on talking about this. I feel more pressure to rattle off stats on the podcast so that people feel like we actually looked into this crap than I really want to weight those stats when it comes time to picking the player. Because
I agree.
I do think, and we've had a bunch of PGA Tour players and caddies on this show over the years that, and a bunch of them we've asked kind of how you would rank things, course form, course history, and stats. And all of them put stats at the bottom. Like, all of them do. John Tillery, the coach that we sat down with and interviewed a couple months ago, Kevin Kisner's guy, he said the same thing. Like, I definitely think you can get way too caught up in the stats. Now, it's just some noisy stuff.
Well,
and Spieth's a great example, but
I think you're right. But and I think that's important because everybody wants us. So look, when we're picking a player, yes, you got to back it up with some sort of research and information and whatever else. But there is a lot of variable factors that are involved here, and some of it could be a little bit of feel to the player or whatever. Like that, like for instance, like you mentioned John Tillery. One of the things he said in that interview was talking about the home life, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he mention that? The home life
he said that first. We literally said, what is it that you would look at if you were to pick golfers on a week in, week out basis? What would be the first thing you'd look at? And he literally
Yep.
said, "How are things at home?" And he's on the
So
PGA Tour 20 weeks a year.
exactly. So I heard an interview that Kevin Na gave after his win, and one of the first things he talked about was his home life right now. He talked about being happy at home, being happy with the kids, everything. We know Kevin Na had issues with the slow play, and he even like made fun of himself, like he just couldn't hit the ball, and he had all these issues. But now that his home life is really good, and he feels comfortable, and it's showing on the golf course for him. So that's a factor that's very hard to figure out week in and week out. Now, you could maybe guess. I mean, I've always like if you look at Kevin on Instagram and whatever else, which is another reason I always say like you really should follow as many of these players on social media as you possibly can, because that's the way you get a sense of the home life of, are they posting stuff with their kids, with their wife, whatever. Like you may see that. And I've seen that from Kevin Na lately on Instagram, and that could give you a little bit of a hint. But that comes with feel. That's kind of where you may just pull that in internally when you're picking a golfer that week and not even look at the stats and say, you know what, I've seen Kevin Na lately just happy as hell. I want to play him. I feel like that might translate onto the golf course. So you can't measure that in any sort of stat. So I guess the Jordan thing.
How's your home life, buddy? I'm
good.
concerned about you.
No, it's good, actually. It's good home life. It's good.
Are you getting laid?
Yes. So you're worried about the member guests, aren't you, in 2 weeks? No, I'm not in Addressville.
It's the biggest major of the year for you and me. The Champions Retreat member guests in just a couple of weeks. I got a little geared up for today. Did some practice today. I want to make sure you're getting laid. I want to make sure you're being taken care of at home by the lady. I need you strong in a couple weeks.
All right, way to transition out of that. But I just wanted to touch on it. It was.
Hey, what'd you think about the Kevin Na belly rub when you rubbed his belly, his little baby, and he kissed it? I'm sorry, he kissed it. The rub and kiss on his pregnant wife's belly after he won.
I did not see. I did not.
No, you missed that. I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that move. Kevin Na is a likable guy. I tweeted it.
I like him a lot.
I didn't like him a couple years ago, and he was a freaking basket case, and he belonged in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest when he was like waggling the ball and he couldn't pull the trigger. And I'm not crazy about the slow play, but I get it. Coming down the stretch, he was a little slow, but he's trying to win a golf tournament. I get it. But he's a likable guy. He makes fun of himself. He's kind of self-deprecating. The guys on tour seem to really like him. An easy guy to root for. He's not super flashy, other than a head cover or two that he's got. It's kind of weird, but other than that, he's an easy guy to root for. So it's a pretty cool thing. Hey, speaking of member guests, we have our contest. We didn't talk about the contest last week, but a contest where we will fly one lucky listener to Augusta, Georgia, put you up in a very nice spot, take care of you, and you can be my member guest partner at the one-day fall member guest at Champions Retreat on October 18th. Champions Retreat, my golf course, a fantastic course. The host of the first 2 rounds of the Augusta National Women's Amateur Champions Retreat just did in April. So you can play as my guest. All you have to do is a very easy contest. And honestly, we're not getting a whole lot of traction. So there's a couple guys right now kind of in the race. Other than that, it's kind of up for grabs. We just want some guerrilla marketing. We just want some people to get out there and get aggressive and tell the Tour Junkies gospel. Tell your friends about us. That's probably the biggest compliment we can get is when people say, hey, man, I've been telling my buddies about you. Now they listen. We love that. It's really cool. So we're trying to think of a way creatively to reward somebody for also being creative and marketing for us. Maybe you don't have to spend any money. Maybe you do. We'll take care of you. It'll be a really nice trip if you win. Right now we've got somebody that started a really nice Instagram fan page. Somebody started a Facebook page, Facebook fan page. We got a lot of good ideas that we've circulated here on the podcast where you can kind of get the word out. Do what you got to do. Pull some strings. Call in some favors, and spread the word on the Tour Junkies. You got to document it. You got to send us a video or some picture. You got to have proof that you did something to really tell a lot of people about the Tour Junkies. Do something at a PGA Tour event. Don't yell stuff after people hit. Don't do that. But do something at a PGA Tour event and bring a little attention to the Tour Junkies podcast. We greatly appreciate it. And we're going to reward one lucky listener that trip to Augusta, Georgia in the fall. We're going to run this through the Open Championship and see where we stand. And we may extend it, we may not. So there you go. Also, if you're watching on YouTube right now, give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. We'd appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, maybe. All right, Pat. Anything else that we got to get into right now? We ready to get into this course breakdown?
No, I think that's all I got.
You know, speaking of stats, FantasyNational.com, we downplay the stats, but Fantasy National is more than a stat engine. It's a fantastic place to see the course history. That's where you get it. That's where we get the best idea of course history for the players. It's also a great place to click. One of the things that goes into my research every week as I start narrowing down players is I'm looking at these players and their past performances and their strokes gain metrics at every tournament. And being able to see how they're trending is important. If I just want to pull out one stat and look over the last, 24 rounds or 50 rounds or 100 rounds, I can do that. But also just seeing how guys are trending is important. And FantasyNational.com gives you the chance to do that, among a lot of other things. They run simulations for you, so you can, if you just don't even want to do research, you just want to see what the smartest stat engine on the interwebs will tell you who's going to win and play off of that. Plenty of people are winning money. A ton of people are winning money off FantasyNational.com. Over a couple $1 million won already this season from FantasyNational.com members. So join today. You get 20% off the membership off of any subscription when you go to FantasyNational.com/TJ. FantasyNational.com/TJ. There's a weekly subscription for $10 a week, a monthly for $30, and an annual for $250. And you get 20% off of those subscriptions right there. So I know we kind of downplayed the stats here a little bit. And they are important, but I don't think they're the most important. But Fantasy National is way more than that. So try it out, check it out, and let's get to the course breakdown, key stats, and let's get to some picks, P. Perry.
Well, I'm also fairly certain that we're going to get Strokes Gained Family Life onto the Fantasy National site.
Family Life, yes.
Right here. It's probably going to happen next week after this podcast. So, yeah, so here we are, the Memorial Tournament. This is a big event. This is a good field. I think you got like 11 of the top, maybe 15 or 16 ranked players in the world here in Dublin, Ohio, Muirfield Village Golf Club. This is a classic Jack Nicklaus designed par 72, playing just about 7,400 yards. You've got bent grass greens. They're going to be bent grass because Jack Nicklaus has obviously done well at Augusta National. Loves the bent grass greens, and so this is one of those courses that I love the design here. I think I'm not a huge fan always of some Jack Nicklaus designs, but I like this one. I think he pulled in a little bit of Augusta National into this design. You've got bent and sort of a little bit of Poana fairways. You've got mostly Kentucky bluegrass rough, which will play pretty thick this week. Fairways are not extremely hard to hit, but they are a must. You've got to hit them because you've got to give yourself a good chance at hitting these greens in the right position. This is a second shot golf course, so I think a strokes gained approach is going to be huge. And there's a lot of rough around the green. So you've got to hit these greens in the right spot. They're extremely undulating. They're fast. They're quick. And then you've got some thick rough also around these greens. So if you do miss them, you got to be good at scrambling. You've got 4 par 5s here. All of them you can score on, which makes me think, I think par 5 scoring is going to be key. All of these par 5s actually played under par last year. So that's where you're going to see a lot of your scoring. As far as hazards are concerned, water is in play on 9 holes, 9 or 10 holes actually. Water's in play, so that is something you want to look out for. You don't want to see those big numbers from a lot of these guys. As far as past champs, we had Bryson DeChambeau in last year in 2018. We had Jason Duffner before that. Dirk McGirt, he's out right now on an injury leave, I believe, in 2016. David Lingmerth in 2015. I don't know if you're seeing a theme here, but there's one. But then Hideki in 2014. By the way, Tiger, who is in the field this week, has 5 wins at the Memorial, with his last coming in 2012. For me, the key stats I looked at, I mentioned strokes gained approach. I think this is definitely a second shot golf course. Proximity is something, a small percentage I'll look at. Just the guys that are hitting the greens in the right spot, close to the hole. Scrambling for sure. Did look a little bit at strokes gained putting on bent grass because we've had a lot of bent grass greens over the last 24 rounds. That's just something I know. Strokes gained putting is very random, but I did want to look at who was trending well there. So there you go. Quick rundown. What you got, David?
Nice. Very, very well done, Pat. Crap. Yeah. So basically,
Crap.
yeah,
You have some problems over there?
yeah. I'm juggling a lot of things over here. I'm with you, man. I think that was a good course breakdown. I think wind is something to look out for here, as that can be a factor in kind of the defense of this golf course at times. I'm reading the course description or listening to the course description. I'm like, man, this is just like the Bluff 9 at Champions Retreat, where you can win a trip to play. Jack Nicklaus designed one of our 9s, and it's very wide and very forgiving tee to green. But those greens are undulating AF, and if you're not on the exact right platform where the pin is stuck, you are screwed.
He likes to do that.
Yeah, 3 putts abound. Having to get up and down is tricky. So yeah, I think iron play being really sharp and dead on is a must, because not only do you have to hit these greens, you got to hit the right levels of these greens, and then when you miss, get up and down. So yeah, it looks like, when you look at past winners, a lot of different guys can win here. You don't necessarily have the ability to overpower it, similar to Colonial. I think a little more so than last week. Bombers have a slightly bigger advantage, obviously with the par 5s in play.
Yeah,
Golf course is
and
a little
longer
soft.
Course.
Yeah, a little longer. The golf course is a little soft right now. Ohio's had some rain. Looks like there could be some rain on Wednesday, but other than that, a pretty mild weather week for the tournament. So just check wind come Wednesday night. That's what I would say. I think that's important. But other than that, invitational tournament, so a little smaller field, top 70 and ties get in. I'll tell you what, man, I like a lot of players in the 6K. I was looking at this, and I was like, I'm probably not going to start at the top end of this range. I'm probably going to load up on some 9K guys, which I still like. I'm still going to do. But it's definitely making me think you can studs and duds this bad boy, because there's a lot of guys in the 6K range that I like for this golf tournament. And when you see names like William McGirt, Jason Duffner, David Lingmerth pop on this course and win, a guy down there in the 6K who's hot, who's got some form, who's got the right ability, can definitely do the same thing on a week like now. But I get that it's a stronger field. It's Jack's Place. Everybody wants to play here, so chances are Cream's going to rise to the top. But I like the outlook of a studs and duds lineup right now. You mentioned Tiger. You agree?
No, I do agree with that, actually. As a matter of fact, usually when we're going into, we like to pick 2 GPP plays in the 6K range. And I had a hard time just picking 2. I actually I have a few more than 2.
I have a handful, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk through the 9K range. We're going to give you 3 GPPs, a cash play, and a fade. First of all, are you going to play Tiger? People want to hear about Tiger. You mentioned the wins here at Jack's Place. Coming off the missed cut at the PGA. But he's back. What do you think?
Actually, he is one of my GPP plays this week. I like Tiger. I know it's expensive at 11.2, but if you look at the stats, he's in the top 20 in strokes gained approach. He's top 10 in strokes gained around the green. Checks a box in proximity. He's been striking the ball well. I mean, you look at a guy like him especially with his long irons, whatever, going into the greens. He's checking the boxes there, and he's playing well. I mean, we saw it at Augusta National. We've seen it all year long. And one of the things that he obviously has good course history. I mentioned that. He's won here 5 times. His ownership has not been that high all year long. I mean, like when you look at his last 4 or 5 events, he was 10% owned at the PGA, 12.5 at the Masters, 13 at the Players, 11 at Genesis, and then he was 16.8 at the WGC Mexico. But that's all, 30 players in the field? I don't know, 60 players in the field, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's going to be higher. So he hasn't been very high owned this year. So when you look at a GPP, I like that, and I think Tiger's, and you're going to probably even get him a little bit lower coming off a missed cut at the PGA Championship. So I do like him this week. I think he's a good play in tournament lineups. Not going to play him in cash, but I do like Tiger.
Okay, who are the rest of your GPP lineups? Your players.
All right, so and I'm with you too. I do think there's a lot of guys in this 9K range that you could go with. I like Cooch at 9,400. he's had really good recent form when you look at his last several events. I mean, he was top 10 of the PGA Championship, kind of snuck in there. He was second at the RBC Heritage. He was T12 at the Masters. I think he's just a great, solid GPP play this week. I mean, you look at the stats. He's fourth in strokes gained approach. I mentioned that as being extremely important. He is 35th off the tee. He is first in par 5 scoring. Also, he's top 15 in proximity. So I love some Cooch. He will also be my cash play in this over 9K range. And then this guy's going to be interesting to me because I think he's way cheaper than he should be without having played in the last few weeks with an injury. That's Justin Thomas. If he's playing in the field, if he's playing, I got to believe he's healthy. Got to believe he's healthy. And maybe I'm going to get a little bit of an ownership dip because of the fact that he's coming in after a few withdrawals and things like that, not playing in the PGA, withdrawing from the Quail Hollow, a place where he's played well before. I feel like he's ready. I've seen it on social media where it looks like he's ready. I've seen him playing, so I don't think there's going to be any issues there, but he's definitely checking boxes. I mean, he's top 15 approach. I mean, literally across the board, everything I'm looking at, Justin Thomas fits the bill. Off the tee, strokes gained, par 5 scoring, strokes gained around the green. He's third in the field. He's 8th in opportunities gained, so he's giving himself chances. I just think Justin Thomas, if I'm going to get a little bit of an ownership dip, I'd rather get it right now when I get him at 9,300. I will take that all day long. So he will be my third GPP play this week.
All right, who's your cash?
I already mentioned it. Cooch is my cash.
Oh, Cooch and cash. Yep. All right. Couldn't agree more with Coocher. I think he's as much a lock as anybody, so he's a GPP play for me. The highest priced guy that I'm looking at right now, or at least that I wrote down, but again, like I said, the more I look at it, the more I'm intrigued by this top tier, and I think Tiger, depending on ownership, could be interesting. But for right now, the highest guy I have is Patrick Cantlay. He finished fourth here last year in 2018. Incredible box checking, son of a gun, boring AF, slow AF, but he's just amazing at golf. So I think Cantlay is as solid as they come. I don't mind him in cash, although my next player I think is a much better value in cash. And you know me, man, I cannot quit on some Hideki. He is 11th in this field in strokes gained approach, 3rd in opportunities gained, 11th in strokes gained around the green all over the last 24 rounds. And his ownership hasn't been stupid high, like not as high as it should be. I mean, it's 15% at the PGA. I do think he'll be a little higher owned right now. But I've been riding the form of Hideki. He scores even when he doesn't necessarily produce the finishes that you want him to produce. He still scores and makes a lot of birdies, which is what you need if you're looking at him for DraftKings. I don't like his odds. His odds are a little short, but for DFS, I think Hideki's as solid as they come at $9,100. So I'll be playing Hideki, Cooch, and Cantlay in GPPs, and I'm gonna roll Hideki in cash at $9,100. That's an amazing place to start for cash. I think you could go up to any of these guys, really. I think you go as high as Cantlay. Because there's a lot of value down there at the bottom. But I think Decky's as solid as they come. My fade, I think JT. I love some JT, man. I love JT, and I do think this is an interesting spot to jump on him. But I do wonder, with a wrist injury is the only thing that I if it were anywhere else, if it were his kneecap or his coccyx, maybe he broke his coccyx, anything like that. If it was a testicular injury, I would be all about playing Justin Thomas. Your wrist in golf, I worry a little bit. I've seen him on Instagram. I've seen him on Twitter hitting some shots. I get it. I just wonder, though, if this is one of those, let me warm up this week, test it in preparation for the U.S. Open, get the week off, and then come back for the U.S. Open. I just wonder if there's a little bit of that where this is kind of a trial for him. So I do see that you're going to get an ownership leverage, and I respect the play. Ballsy move, but for me, I think I'm gonna avoid the temptation of a $9K Justin Thomas. I mean, we haven't seen a $9,300 Justin Thomas in years. I don't care what the tournament's been. That's a pretty good price tag for him. I just can't. I'm not going to pull the trigger on it. So
Yeah,
he's my fade.
again, it'll be interesting to see what his ownership looks like. But if he's sitting there around like I don't know, less than 15% owned,
I think he will be. I think it'll be less than 15.
I just like taking the risk. I like it, especially
Well,
in tournaments.
we know where to go for ownership, and that is fansharesports.com. That is our place to check out ownership. That's one of the last stops we make right before we talk to people on the ground who tell us about players who are injured and might withdraw right before they go out and light up the course record. Fansharesports.com is where we go to check out all the ownership stuff, all the ownership projections. They do all that for you. They listen to all the podcasts, YouTube videos, all that kind of stuff. And you can join right now with promo code Tour Junkies, all one word. Promo code Tour Junkies. They also, like Fantasy National, have a weekly, monthly, and annual subscription. $10 a week, $25 a month, or $200 a year for the fansharesports.com subscription. And you get 20% off when you use our promo code. Please use our promo code if you sign up. We appreciate it. They also do the NFL. So if you play any form of DFS, whether it's FanDuel, DraftKings, Fantasy Draft, whatever, if you play any form of DFS in tournament play for golf or the NFL, you are losing an edge on the field without a fansharesports.com subscription. And yeah, I think that'll be interesting. I think JT will fall in that like 10% kind of range. 'Cause I think he is too enticing at 9,300. He's way too enticing for people to fully avoid.
Yeah, no, I agree, but
I love the cowboy move out of you. I love it. It's refreshing.
Well, that's what I do sometimes for you.
Who's your fave in this range? Did you already say that?
I did not, and I feel like this is. I was kind of hoping I was going to get away with maybe not having to mention it. So I actually had thought about Jordan because as much as I like him,
you just went on this diatribe.
9,900 for Jordan does concern me a
little bit.
You
paid 10.9 for him last week.
Yeah, but I liked him a lot more on that course than I do on this one. So it was more the course factor than it was anything else. I mean, look, it's a shorter course than this is. I'm not going to get into all that, but there was a lot of different factors when it came to whatever else. But I'm going to fade Justin Rose. I feel like I haven't really seen anything out of Rose. I mean, he was T58 last week at Colonial, and he was T29 at the PGA Championship. He finished third at Wells Fargo when he was literally going into that tournament that he was hitting the ball terrible and had no clue what was going to happen, coming off a missed cut at the Masters.
Yeah.
So that was concerning, and then he finished his T3rd. So by the way, if Justin Rose comes out this week and says he doesn't know what his ball's doing, play him. Don't fade him, because then he's probably going to finish in the top 10. But he really hasn't been in the best form, is from what I'm seeing. You look at par 5 scoring, he's 79th in the field. He's 65th in the field in scrambling, also 61st in proximity. I don't know. I'm going to fade some Justin Rose. And he's been pretty good here. He finished top 10 last year, second in 2015. He did miss a cut in 2014, but just going to roll the dice and fade some Rose. You got to make a good call here, and probably going to be higher end. I think so. We'll see.
All right, why don't you lead off the 8K range, and I'm gonna
let off this range. Gotta let. All right, so
I'm gonna go get a refill real quick, because I don't have that same setup that you do. We talked about this last week. I don't have the same setup.
I have literally my own personal.
I'm sorry. I'm this one will be way quicker than last week's though. If you'll just do that, give us 2 GPP plays, your cash play, and your fade in the 8K. I'll be listening, though. I will be listening.
Okay. Well, appreciate that. I'm glad you'll at least pay attention to me. So I'm going to start off kind of near the top here in the 8K range, and I like some Adam Scott, just a guy that's just been solid tee to green all year long. You look at his ball striking, he's top 35 in the field. He's actually number 1 in the field over the last 24 rounds in DraftKings scoring, which is interesting to me. But I think just Adam Scott's just a solid play. You look at approach, off the tee, par 5 scoring, scrambling, all of those. He is checking boxes for me. at 8,700. I think that's a good play, and I think you know what? I think he's certainly going to be a little bit low, and he's coming in good form. He finished T8 at the PGA Championship. He was top 18, or T18 at the Masters. So I like that. So Adam Scott at 8,700. Love him this week. Now I'm going to go with a guy. This is a gut feel. We talked about the gut. Talked about the stats sometimes not mattering. I'm going to go with some Phil Mickelson this week at 8,100.
Ooh, okay.
I just I think he's trying to get himself ready for Pebble Beach, which is a course that obviously sets up well for him, that he's played well on in the past. Look, he's not going to check a whole lot of boxes. We know he's a great scrambler, though. We know on courses like this where you have to hit it, you mentioned the right spots on the green, can putt well on bent grass. I think Phil is just going to be I think he's going to be good on this course this week. I like him. He's definitely going to be loaned. I don't think a whole lot of people are going to play him. I mean, he really hasn't been in the greatest of form. But you look at his last 5 times playing here, he's made the cut 5 straight years. He's got 3 top 25 finishes, including the last 3 years. He was T20 in 2016, T22 in 17. Last year he had a top 15 finish. So I think Phil Mickelson will play well this week. I like him at 8,100. But going to cash, I cannot believe this, but I'm going to go with Rory Sabatini in cash. This guy's just been solid week in and week out. I'm going with the fact that he's just lighting up. I mean, look at his last 4 events.
The Slovakian.
Top 10 at the Heritage, top 18, T18 at Wells Fargo, T5 at the Byron Nelson, T6 last week at Colonial. It's just been solid week in and week out. And then when you go to the stats, 29th strokes gained approach, 12th off the tee, 14th par 5 scoring, 2nd strokes gained around the green, 33rd proximity. The guy's just been solid, and I'll ride him, and I don't mind paying $8,300 for Rory Sabatini in cash. I'm okay with that. So, and I play. By the way, I'd play him in tournaments as well. But I think it's I just Sabs is, as much as I hate to say it, the guy is just solid right now. I love it. I'll save my fade, by the way, whichever.
Okay. I haven't played Rory Sabatini whatsoever this entire season, other than maybe one of the first weeks. So there's no reason for me to start jumping on the bandwagon now at 8,900. His ownership has stayed.
He's 8,300.
8,300, my bad. His ownership has stayed around that 10% range, which is not bad at all for you to have a little exposure to him. But I just haven't been on the Sabatini Slovakian Express all year, and I'm not going to jump on it now. I'd rather just be off of it still when it runs off the tracks. I think he's taking performance-enhancing drugs or something like that. I think he needs to be drug tested.
I'll ride it. I'll ride it while he's taking drugs.
Yeah, so I'm not about that life, but I am about Gary Woodland, as you would expect.
Sure, that doesn't surprise me.
Not a great history here, but plenty of experience to speak of, and he's a little better player than he has been in years past at Jack's Place. Checks all the boxes, every single box. I don't have to rattle them off, but anything with iron play, strokes gained around the green, he's checking the box. 8,800. Love Gary Woodland, and then a guy that I feel like got a little forgotten last week or a couple weeks ago at the PGA Championship. Everybody hopped off, and that's Jason Kokrak.
Kokrak.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the guy got so much love, and I mean, we enjoyed him too. He got a ton of love this whole year, and he's had a tremendous season, and he's checking the box. He's top 15 in this field in every iron play category you can look at. Every approach category.
You don't worry at all about the fact that he's missed 3 cuts out of the last 4 times he's played here.
I don't, and I mean, in fact, I hope that throws a few people off. I don't think it will necessarily, but I don't. I mean, how many times have we seen Jason Kokrak go 15 of 15 made cuts to start off the PGA Tour season? He's a better player than he has been every year previous playing this event. So I think he's a really good play, and with somewhat suppressed ownership at the PGA, it seems like the Kokrak train has slowed down a little bit. Maybe people are going to hop on this Sabatini deal. I'd much rather have Jason Kokrak.
I think Kokrak's still going to have. I mean, look, like you said it, the way he's played this year. I mean, I don't even know the guy. I don't think he's missed a cut this year, actually.
He
So,
hasn't.
I see what you're saying there, but then I look at a guy like Mickelson right there below him that you're going to get way lower ownership on. And here's the thing about this tournament. We talked about these winners: Bryson, Duff, McGirt, Lingmerth, whatever. Actually, historically, we haven't seen guys that have won this tournament coming in on like heaters, that like with the greatest of recent forms. So I don't know. I mean, which Kokrak has. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
he can make.
that doesn't mean that a guy that is coming in on a heater is going to slow down all of a sudden. I mean, Rory
Yeah.
Sabatini's on a heater. Then, by that logic, you should fade him.
Well, I know, but I don't know. Kokrak
I
just
don't care
like
about that.
his ownership's going to be so freaking high.
Useless data brought to you by Pat just now. I don't care about that. I think Kokrak. I would love to see a Kokrak Sabatini head-to-head matchup on my bookie. I would gladly take Kokrak there.
Are you gonna go? Do you want to go with a Molinari Spieth? Because even though Molinari's not in the field, but I just want to bring up the fact that you guaranteed that Molinari was going to finish higher than Spieth
Did
last
I do
week
that?
on the podcast. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You lost that one.
That was an egregious.
I had somebody, a friend of mine who listens to the show, text me to make sure I brought that up in the show. Shout out Hollywood, I'll call him. He lives out in L.A. Thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Wow, you would have a friend named Hollywood in L.A. That's about
Well, no,
as
I
dumb.
call
That's
him
about as
Hollywood.
dumb a name as possible.
I call him Hollywood because he lives in L.A. That's not his real name.
Oh, that's very original. Very original. Well, I didn't think it was his real name, you dipshit. That's very original, huh? Hollywood. You think of that all on your own?
You're just mad
Did
right
you think
now
of that all
because
by yourself?
well,
Adjust
I'm
those
not
sleeves
making
one more
like
time
calls.
for me. Adjust
I'm
those
not.
sleeves one more time.
You're just upset because I brought up the fact that you guaranteed that.
Yeah. Molinari, I don't know what he was doing. He didn't really care last week, I guess. I'm going to go Woodland and Cash. He's my cash play there, by the way. I'm fading Bryson, defending champ. The highest price guy here at 8,900 absolutely checks none of those approach category boxes right now. Seems to have kind of like lost his way just a touch. And I'd much rather have Gary Woodland there, Hideki right above him. So defending champ, some of the responsibilities there that lie with Bryson. I know he's a professional, but I'm out on him, and I'm also out on Sabatini. So I'll give you that little bonus fade. Who's your fade in this range?
Well, I agree. Actually, Bryson is my fade, and I mentioned this. If you've been reading the Fantasy Golf Sommelier article on TourJunkies.com, I've faded Bryson a lot lately, and the reason is because I think he's just a guy that has to have everything in sync for his game to be, for him to be doing well. And I just don't think it's in sync right now. I just don't. I mean, I faded him last week.
In sync.
Yeah, and it didn't. Yeah, okay, whatever. And
Get the play to do. Get another freedom with the game. Might sound crazy, but it ain't all the. Sorry, go ahead.
Memorial Day podcast.
All right, a lot of day drinking.
I was about to say, I didn't drink today. I mean, until the podcast started. No Memorial Day drinking for me. Can you believe that? It's crazy. I started at 2:00 yesterday.
What's that gift for that guy's like? Where's like?
So people can't see what you're doing.
Anyway, all right. So you're fading Bryson too. Okay, great.
Fading Bryson for sure.
All right, let's get down to the 7K range. I'll start there. I don't want you to piss him on again. You have to start another range. Here's a gut play for you. I'm about to get real gut on you right here. I'm going with a guy who historically is a ball striking machine, and I think it's starting to come back a little bit. I'm going Kyle Stanley, $7,800.
You were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
I like a little Kyle Stanley. 8th at the Wells Fargo, 21st at the Masters, missed the cut at the PGA. That's a big course for him. I like this place. I like this place for him. He gained 4.5 strokes with his irons at Quail Hollow. A little over 2 at Valero. It's looking okay. So a little gut play there for Kyle Stanley. Only in tournaments. Do not recommend elsewhere. And then I'm going to go Keegan. I feel good about some Keegan Bradley. My Keegan radar has been pretty good so far this season. $7,600. I think that's a steal for Keegan. He checks a lot of boxes, really playing well from tee to green, and a pretty decent history here at Old Jack's Place too. So I'm liking Keegan Bradley. In fact, I considered him my cash play. He is not, but I did consider it. And then finally, I'm going to go Joel Damon. I mean, I like that we got Joel at a discount. I like the 7,000. He's been a little higher lately, which has been kind of a reason I've been off of him. I know he missed the cut last week, but I think he'll bounce back nicely here. I think it's a good spot for him. He checks a lot of boxes. He's not played here before, but I know that he's a good fit here. And I like him coming off the missed cut. So I'm going to get some ownership leverage in this range. I think Stanley and Damon could do that. So I'll go there. And then my cash play is Emiliano Grillo. I think Grillo will be pretty chalky as it comes to tournament lineups. But for cash, I think he's a solid bet for cash, and I prefer him over a lot of the guys in the top tier in cash if you're not going to go. And if you're not going to go Grillo, I like Keegan. So officially, I'll go Grillo, but Keegan is very close. So those are my plays.
Wow, I'm kind of surprised with you taking Grillo. I mean, I get it. I like him, but I don't know.
I usually don't play Grillo in tournaments, though, because he always seems to get a lot of... He can implode very easily.
He can. He was very high owned last week. I liked him, but I thought he was a little bit higher than I would have liked. But and I understand the Kyle Stanley play. By the way, I'm with you on Keegan. I don't normally like to take him. I just don't. But he just kept popping for me.
You are never with me on Keegan.
As a matter of fact, I'm feeling the radar, the Keegan radar, and I like him in cash and GPPs. So he's my cash play. So I'm with you there. A guy that I've been on a little bit lately, and I just feel like his game's coming around, and he has been lower owned. I was on him last week. He kind of failed me a little bit on the weekend, but I'm hoping that he just puts 4 rounds together and plays well on a course that he's won before, and that is Jason Duffner at 7,400. I just like him. I think that he's always under-owned. And he's definitely a streaky type golfer. But when you look at the stats, checking the box in proximity, he's top 15 in the field. He's top 40 in the field in scrambling. And look, we're getting a little bit out there right now when the numbers are concerned, but we're down here in the 70, the low 7K range. He's checking the box off the tee actually, and I just think Duff is a solid low owned guy who's won here before. I like him. So I will play him. And then the other guy that I like, I actually thought you might be on him, and that's Keith Mitchell at 7,100. 27th off the tee. He's 4th strokes gained approach. He was 8th, when it was at the Wells Fargo just a few weeks ago, which is a course I think is very kind of similar to this. One of those courses where there's a lot of rough, but the fairways aren't, extremely difficult to hit. And I like Mitchell. He only played here once and he did miss the cut, but whatever. I don't really mind that. And I think he's got the game to win on this course, to putt well out here. So I think Keith Mitchell at 7,100 is a good GPP play. So there you go. That's my GPPs: Duff, Keegan, and Keith Mitchell.
Who'd you say was cash?
Keegan.
Duff. Oh, Keegan. Oh yeah, Keegan. All right, 2 fades in this range. I'm going Tyrrell Hatton. I know he played well last week. He's a good player, but he's never played here before. I'm not a big fan of Tyrrell Hatton anyway. He's a very volatile guy. And then I'm going to fade Luke List. Luke List is a people guys love to like. He's a people. People love to like.
He is a people. He's a person and a people.
Hold on, let me just take another sip real quick.
Take a quick sip.
He's a people, and
are there any other peoples in this 7K range that you want to fit?
He's a people that peoples like to talk about, and I do like Luke List, and I like a big fan of Chloe, and yeah, it's a gut play. The 7K is very much a gut call for me. I'm playing Kyle Stanley, and I'm fading Luke List. It is just
I cannot believe by the way you're fading Luke List. That surprises me. Because usually you don't throw yourself out there as much as I do when it comes to some of these picks.
Well, I'm putting myself out there, baby. I'm putting myself out there.
I thought you were going to like some Luke List because I think he's going to get a lot of talk this week, and I agree. I think he could be a fade candidate for sure.
Hey, by the way, I got to mention a couple of bets in here that I like. I mentioned Joel Damon. There's some really weird bets on MyBookie right now. MyBookie.ag, promo code Tour Junkies for deposit bonus if you've not already joined. But they have some stupid high numbers. I'm about to read off a few of them here in the 6K range. But in the 7K range on DraftKings, you've got Joel Damon at 110 to 1 in this invitational field, playing really well where it's produced where it's produced winners like McGirt and Lingmerth and Duffner, guys who like aren't, top 10 in the world guys, right? Joel Damon at 110 to 1 and Jim Furyk at 110 to 1. Furyk is a guy I'm probably going to get onto a little bit later this week. So there's some other guys in the 7K range that, I like. I just had to narrow it down. But 110 to 1 on mybookie.ag for both Furyk and Damon. Both playing pretty well. Both have the ability to win here. I think is interesting. So who's your fades in the 7K?
Two fades for me. One right near the top is Kiz at 7,900. I just haven't seen him
right this year, man. I cannot get him right.
I can't get him either, and so he's probably going to play great. So you may want to play him, but the guy has not played well recently. Has 2 top 10 finishes here. I mean, if you want to look at the course history, he was T6 and 17. Yeah, he's probably going to win. But when it comes to everything else you're looking at, the stats, which, are just not good. He's 65th in approach. He's 83rd in scrambling, 92nd in proximity, 79th in opportunities gained. And you look at, his recent form, really hadn't been there. He's missed 2 straight cuts after finishing 41st at the Heritage, which is a great course for him. So, a perfect course fit. So I just don't like Kiz at 7,900. And then another guy, I'm going with another guy that's been on the show, Charles Howell at 7,300. He has not been good at all.
I don't know, man. That's a tough fade at 7,300, man.
It is, but he withdrew from the Byron Nelson for I don't know what the reason was that he withdrew, but it was last minute. Then did play at the PGA Championship and made the cut with the T41. But, before the Byron Nelson, he missed a cut at the Wells Fargo, missed a cut at the Heritage, which isn't the greatest course fit for him. But I think Wells Fargo is. I think Quail Hollow is a good course for him. So at 7,300, I think I'm gonna fade him this week. I think I think that price is something people are really gonna zero in on and love for Charles Howell. But then when you look at I'll look at the stats too. I'll throw those out there. Nothing really is great for him. He's 88th in par 5 scoring, 68th in strokes gained approach. So not really hitting the action.
What range are you looking at? 24 rounds? What are you looking at?
24 rounds.
I don't know, man. I think that's a tough fade at 7,300. Maybe we'll text Charles. Charles is the kind of guy, he's like the only player we know that we could text on Wednesday night before a tournament and be like, hey, should we play you? And he would give us an answer and not be a dick about it. Like,
look,
I would never text a player. We've never done that, for the record. We've never texted a player the night before a tournament. But I'm just saying, like, he's the type of guy that we could. I feel like this is a sneaky place for him. 7,300 is low.
I can see that, but I feel like everybody's going to look at Charles Howell at 7,300. And again, I'll be interested to see where the ownership is for him.
I don't think it's going to be that high. I think there are going to be some people that fade him, but that's a tough price for me to avoid him. The winning upside for Charles Howell on a par 72 with 4 par 5s, the winning upside at 7,300 for him is interesting to me. But anyway, let's go to the 6K range. Let's button this bad boy up.
You're not giving your fades?
I already did. Hatton and List.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
God. Let's go to the 6K range. Make this snappy. I got 4 guys here that I like, and all 4 of them I'm also going to give you some MyBookie odds because they are stupid long. Corey Connors, a guy that we mentioned last week on the podcast, continues to play really well, checks a ton of boxes. This is a great course for Corey. Incredible iron player, top 5 in a lot of key iron metrics in the last 24 rounds. He's 125 to 1 on MyBookie. Matt Every, who's sneakily playing really well right now also.
Sneakily?
Sneakily. That is a word. Yes, that is. So I do like Matt Every at 160 to 1 on my bookie, but I like him in DraftKings too. The Juiced Luton, Juiced Loughton.
I think it's Yost.
It is not Yost. It's Juiced.
It's Yost.
It's Loughton. Loughton.
I can't believe you had him because actually he was one of my GPP plays.
I like him. I like him in tournaments at a 140 to 1. Listen, if you look at European Tour stats over the long term, he's a pretty good ball striker, great with his irons. He's competed in WGCs and come close. I mean, he's a good player. 140 to 1 on my bookie. And then finally, Nick Watney at 150 to 1, I think is an interesting play as well, both in DFS and my bookie. It's just, those are just 4 names. I mean, there's a ton of names here in the 6K range that I like. I think Taylor Gooch is interesting. Taylor with no Y and an O is interesting. There's a lot of names down here. This is what I'm saying. Like, I really like either like doubling up with a couple 10K guys or like a 10K and a 9K, or maybe even like tripling up on some low-end 9K guys and coming down here to the 6K range. I think it's interesting. So, yeah, I like the 6K range on DraftKings. That's it for me.
Okay. Well, I'm with you, by the way, on Taylor Gooch. I thought that was interesting that you threw that out there. He was not one of my picks here, but I do like him. I like Harold Varner III at 6,900. I think he's a decent play. We saw him play well at the PGA Championship. Maybe is one of those sort of first round leader type plays you want to look at when you're looking at some of the odds on my bookie. I haven't seen those, or probably haven't come out yet. But he's played here twice. He's finished top 20 in 2017, T57 in 2016. So I think he might be someone worth looking at. Another guy that we've seen a lot lately, who's kind of been on a little bit of a heater, and that's Max Homa at 6,700. I think he's a good play as well. He has obviously been in good recent form, coming off that win at the Wells Fargo, but then backed it up, playing well at the PGA Championship. I believe. I think it was a PGA Championship. He played well. A guy that I think you're gonna hate, but I don't give a shit, and that's gonna be Bill Haas at 6,700. I like him actually.
What the actual crap?
Coming off 3 straight cuts made. He's got good course history here. He's just, he got in that wreck last year, and I think that kind of messed him up a little bit and was bad for his mentality. But I think he's bad coming around.
Yeah.
I think Bill Haas is a good little, like, really, really, really low owned play.
All right. Nice. Well, that's that. Let's get to the one and done and the chunk and run. Before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends at Elite Events and Tickets.com. This is pretty cool, actually. So Elite Events and Tickets, they were our very first sponsor on the Tour Junkies podcast 4 years ago, or 3.5 years ago. Very first sponsor to ever write us a check. Is kind of crazy. But we've known these guys for 10, 12 years, ever since they started their business out of Augusta, Georgia. They basically do hospitality, ticketing, all kind of good stuff for major sporting events, concerts, festivals, whatever you want. If you're into like sports, that's great. If you're into like going to see concerts, that's also great. They can hook you up. But here's what's interesting. They now have a franchisee program, and we've actually had a couple listeners, Pat, go down the franchisee road with Elite Events and Tickets, and I'm happy to say it's gone really well. So it's really cool. But now they're offering the ability to have franchisee training and licensing, or whatever you do with the franchise system. They've been doing it, more than a decade. So they have a proven program they'll give you. They train you. They give you the software you need, and you can buy into the franchise and set up an Elite Events and Tickets franchise right there at your kitchen table and make some extra quan, make some extra cheddar. And it's great people. We know these guys. We trust these guys. They're good folks. Over at Elite Events. So check out Elite Events and Tickets franchise.com if you're interested. It's a long URL, but it's Elite Events and Tickets franchise.com if you are interested. Actually, Pat, we got a couple listener questions on the old YouTube here we might get hand out. It's also good for the podcast. One listener said, what do you think about the Tiger-Rory matchup? Tiger is plus 130 against Rory, which is interesting to me that he's that much of a dog on a track that he's won 5 times. I mean, I know he's coming off a missed cut, but it's not like Rory really lit it up at the PGA. I guess he backdoored a top 10 at the PGA, but I kind of like Tiger as the dog there at plus 130.
I do too.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
Agree.
So yeah. All right, let's get to one and done. Honestly, Pat, I don't give a rip. I'm so done with one and done. I had Francesca Molinari last week. I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. So if I were playing a one and done right now and I still had the following left, I would either go Hideki's my number 1, who I don't have him left, or Cantlay would be my number 2. I don't think I have him left either. And then after that, if you just want to get freaky, I'd go Keegan or Kokrak is where I would go. So whichever one of those I have left is where I'll go. But frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a damn.
Well, I actually thought about Keegan. So it's funny. We were in a big one and done, and I was looking at the standings, and I'm actually close to cashing. So it's important to me.
Well, then your pick matters. Give it to us.
So I think I don't know. I was going to go Keegan actually, but I think I'm going to go Cooch.
Ooh, okay. You're gonna go chalky. You're gonna go Cooch. I get it. That's a nice.
I'm gonna go a little chalky here. Go get Coocher.
All right, let's get to the chunk and run now. I will say it's not our most exciting chunk and run. It's not near as good as last week's. If you missed last week's chunk and run and Pat reading rap lyrics, please go back. The best thing you could do is actually go to the YouTube video and watch it. Scroll to like the last 10 minutes and watch it. It was really good. So I just felt like, hey, it's really tough to come back and do good after that. So you might as well just kind of like mail it in. So here's kind of a mail it in chunk and run. This actually comes to us from a listener. You can only play one more round of golf for the rest of your life, Pat. But you can play it at any course in the world. Augusta National excluded. Where do you play?
Well, for me, and I feel like this could be a little bit of a cop-out answer, but it's going to be the old course at St. Andrews. I mean, I've never played golf over there. It's the home of golf, the birthplace of golf. I would love to just see what that's like. I mean, from a historical standpoint, from actually playing a true links golf course standpoint, all of those things. I think the old course would be hands down the place that I want to play if it was my last round ever.
Yeah, that's actually interesting you said that. So that's where I was gonna go, and then I was like, well, that is kind of a cop out, so I won't go there. But that is where I was gonna go. I really do want to play there, and I've heard plenty of people say they played St. Andrews and it was like not that big a deal, and they're like, it's kind of overrated, blah blah blah. And I get that, but if you're a golfer, you still just want to play it. Overrated or not, you want to play it. Chris, I think that Chris Hamill sent that in. I think that's right. He was a listener that sent that in. You just want to play it, and I do want to get out there. But for the sake of variety, I picked a different course, one that you've probably, Pat, I don't even know that you've ever heard of. Have you ever heard of Cape Kidnappers?
I have not. No.
Cape Kidnappers is a golf course on the coastline of New Zealand, and I've seen pictures of it. A buddy of mine is actually, I don't know that he's played it, but he played in New Zealand or somewhere around there, and I've seen pictures of it. It's on the coast of New Zealand, like cut out of a rock. It's a Tom Doak design. It is absolutely beautiful, like stunningly beautiful, and I just think New Zealand would be such a cool place to go and play. So if I'm going to go like historical, give me all the feels, I'm going, like you said, the old course. If I'm going just let me play the most amazing golf course on the planet, I feel like Cape Kidnappers is pretty close to that. So there you go. Look that up.
Now I'm going to Google that one.
All right. Yeah. The run question tonight. This is an interesting one. If you could pay,
I didn't get this one.
If you could pay one person to show up at your funeral and mourn for you, who would it be? Who would you want to be at your funeral and just mourn the death of Patrick H. Perry Jr.?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, if you're going to be at my funeral, you've heard far and wide of my death, that you shouldn't have to be paid to be there. But Which is why I didn't understand the question.
Well, because you're getting like a celebrity, or you're getting like you could have Master P come, who you paid homage to last week.
Nope. I'll tell you, I'm going to pay. I'm going to pay freaking God. I want God to be there at my funeral. And I don't care if I got to pay him. I'll throw out some money. I'll put it out in a pot. It'll be right there next to my funeral.
That's a terrible answer.
I want God to be at my funeral, because then I may have a better chance of getting to heaven.
You have no amount of money you can pay to God. You should have been paying him all along. If you wait to pay him for your funeral, you're done for.
I'm just saying, I'm just throwing him a little extra tip.
You can't tip God. What?
How do you know you can't tip God?
This
God
is blasphemy. Well, this is really going to make my answer look really, really shallow.
I want to make sure God is at my funeral, so I'm going to pay his ass.
Whoa, with the profanity about God. Pump the brakes. Sorry. Mother. Well, this is really going to make my answer look very, very shallow. My first one comes with a condition.
I've never heard, I don't know, this question was, did we have a listener come up with this question?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was.
Okay.
If my lovely wife, who I love, and she's beautiful and I love her, if she's gone before me, and she's not at the funeral, then I would say Tiffany Amber Thiessen, Kelly Kapowski. I would pay her. Think about all the men in our generation that grew up watching her, and they're standing there at my funeral, and maybe the visitation, and they're walking through the line, right? And they walk through the line, and they walk past my casket, and they think, DB, my boy, what's up, dog? You did it right. And then they turn and they leave, and then they see at the end of the line is Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Kelly Kapowski.
And they're like,
bawling her eyes out.
Holy moly. Why is she here? He never told us. Think about the impact that would have as you're going out. I think that would be awesome. However, if my wife were to be at my funeral, I think just Will Ferrell would be great. I would want Will Ferrell at my funeral, and I would not want him to mourn. I would want him to make fun. I would want him to make light. I would want him to make everybody laugh, have a good time, and it just be an electric funeral.
What was the movie? There was a movie he's been at a funeral at, so you could get an idea of what that would be like.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Oh God, what was the movie?
By the way, we talked about a couple Will Ferrell movies on our recent Hank Lebioda interview that if you've not listened to, you need to listen to that. Electric stuff, really good stuff. All right, Pat, well that about wraps it up, bud. This has been a really good time for our people on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chiming in. And next week, what do we have next week? We've got the RBC Canadian Open, the Canadian Open. We'll have the Mounties on the horsebacks.
That's right.
And then we got the U.S. Open.
The major next week is our major, and then following that, we have a real major with the U.S. Open.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody. May your screens be green. See ya.
I didn't know where to go with that question. I was like, where the fuck am I going to go with this question? So I took it to God.
Oh, goodness.